और हार के बाद जीतने वाले को बाजीगर कहते हैं. Well, I may have failed in the intensity of delivering this dialogue, but Shah Rukh Khan is out of the hospital and you may have understood that. With his family after the heat wave got to him. Hours after King Khan's lap of honor at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad to celebrate his team Kolkata Knight Riders' triumph. The actor was suffering from dehydration amid a high temperature of 45 degrees Celsius in Ahmedabad, said the doctors treating, who also kept him under observation. But this isn't Shah Rukh Khan's problem alone. 8 people have died in Rajasthan in the last few days, likely due to extreme heat-linked conditions and the heat wave. Look at this. Red alert for 5 states and 1 union territory till the 26th of May as of now. Delhi will be voting on a day that's expected to be its hottest voting day with severe heat wave. By the way, it's not just Delhi. Look at this. 3 states out of these with heat wave alerts will be voting in the 6th phase. Of course, there are measures like mist fans, water coolers, resting sheds in place. But there's more that you can do. Before we get to that, on what our doctor is going to tell you, look at this, another map. The maximum temperatures across India show large parts of the country in a red mass, according to a study by Climate Trends, indicating above normal temperatures. According to Climate Central, day temperatures in India have been almost twice as likely because of climate change. In fact, 2023 itself has been our hottest global year on record in record 144 years at 1.4 degrees Celsius. India is in a high-risk category from severe heat waves and is expected to increase 6-fold in years to come. And the impact is overall, from flora and fauna to water to for instance, let's look at this in Mumbai. According to sources, water in catchment of lakes due to evaporation is almost 9% every day currently. A big challenge to tackle according to experts. But before we go to our experts, take a look at this.
काफ़ी ज़्यादा गर्मी हो रही है राजस्थान में. पिछले 3-4 दिन से काफ़ी ज़्यादा टेम्परेचर हो रहा है. बाइक की सीट पे आप बैठ नहीं पा रहे हो, रबड़ भी उसका पिघला जा रहा है और आप कहीं खड़े भी नहीं सकते. ना कोई अरेंजमेंट है गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से जिनसे हम लोग अरेंजमेंट कर पाएँ कि कहाँ सेफ हो पाएँ. काफ़ी ज़्यादा गर्मी हो रही है.
आप लोग को ऑफिस में आप लोग काम करते हैं, आप लोग को एसी से बाहर निकलने का क्या लगता है, मन करता है?
बिल्कुल भी मन नहीं कर रहा. एक्चुअली हालात ये हो रखे हैं 9 जब ऑफिस में एंट्री करते हैं 9:30 पे, तो मतलब ये लगता है कि मतलब 12 बजे एंट्री की हमने, 12 से 2 बज रहे हैं. ऐसे हालात है. मतलब मॉर्निंग में अगर आप नहा के निकल रहे हो तो ऐसा फील हो रहा है कि पसीने से नहा के निकल रहे हो, पानी से नहीं नहा के निकल रहे हो. शाम को अगर आप ऑफिस से जा रहे हो तो 8 बजे तक ऐसे लू लगती है. मतलब 8 बजे भी ऐसा लगता है इतना गर्म, हवा ठंडी तो है ही नहीं. मतलब इतनी ज़्यादा तपिश निकल रही है जमीन में से, बहुत बुरे हालात हो रहे हैं.
इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे हम क्या प्रिकॉशंस ले रहे हैं? जयपुर आप बाहर निकलते हैं घर से, हीट वेव का अभी जो रेड अलर्ट राजस्थान में है, इसको देखते हैं क्या प्रिकॉशंस लिए जा रहे हैं?
देखो सर, सुबह सुबह जब निकलते हैं तो पहले तो सुबह होती थी, पर आजकल लगता नहीं है सुबह होती है, डायरेक्ट दोपहर होती है. जैसे अभी 45 है पारा, तो बहुत ज्यादा गर्मी हो रही है, बाहर निकलने का मन नहीं करता बिल्कुल भी.
There are people, let me speak to them. कितना हीट वेव की वजह से कितनी मुश्किल हो रही है, जो ये आप शरबत वगैरह दे रहे हैं क्या?
मुझे लगता है कि जब इंटेंशंस बड़ी क्लियर हों तो मुझे लगता है मुश्किलातें तो ज़रूर हैं. जिस तरीके आप देख रहे हैं कि वेदर कॉस्ट जो हुआ है, फोरकास्ट हुआ है अराउंड 6 डेज का, जो यहाँ पर एक स्क्रॉचिंग हीट है जो इस समय जो यहाँ पर पूरे कहर जिसने बसाया हुआ है. मुझे लगता है कि एक छोटा सा प्रयास है हमारी तरफ से कि हम एक रिलीफ दे पाएँ अपने लोगों को, अपनी आवाम को.
Well, a concerning piece of news for Mumbaikars. Amid extreme heat conditions what Mumbai is going through, the water level in Mumbai has dropped down by 9% by evaporation. This has been confirmed by the BMC officials. Now the water body level of Mumbai has seen the lowest dip in past few years. This year we have seen the dip of 10.67% in water body. As per BMC officials, as of now, there are no plans for water cut, but definitely there is the water scarcity that is happening due to evaporation among the water bodies. The 7 water bodies across Mumbai which provide water to Mumbai, we are seeing that this is the major challenge for civic body to stop the evaporation, which is taking 9% of the daily utilization of water by Mumbai.
Well, I'm being joined right now by O.P. Rawat, former Election Commissioner of India, Anand Sharma, former Additional Director General and Director General of the Indian Metrological Department, as well as Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairperson for Nephron. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us. Well, first to you, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, what should ordinary people who have to go about their daily chores, who have to go out in the sun, who have to do their job, who have to face the brunt of the scorching heat, what should they do? They may not just be able to do what Shah Rukh Khan and his team were able to do.
I think very clearly what we are going to now see is water scarcity in summers is going to be the new gold. And as far as the heat is concerned, it's going to be the new disease. So when you have exposure to heat, you go through heat exposure, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and then, of course, severe dehydration, shock, and other metabolic disturbances which take place. There are three important categories. One is the children, especially under the age group of 5 to 7. Second is the elderlies, and third are the people who with comorbidities, who are more vulnerable. We have to be time smart. In this particular time of the year, we have to be time smart to decrease the time duration exposure, the total exposure and one-time exposure. Even 8 to 10 minutes of exposure in this extreme heat, especially for children. And the reason why I'm saying children is because the children's head circumference occupies double the area of body surface area as compared to adults. So the exposure to the upper part of your face and neck is much more in children. Even 8 to 10 minutes of exposure can cause severe electrolyte disturbance, headache, nausea, vomiting. So you need to be time smart. Second is cover the exposed parts of the body with simple linen. So white clothing, simple linen clothing. If you have more area of your skin exposed, you have more heat loss, more water loss because of heat exposure. Third is to supplement and replenish your body fluids. And fluids doesn't only mean water. It means water with electrolytes. To eat well, especially the adults in this weather should avoid alcohol because it causes further dehydration. Do not forget your routine medication. Your red flag signs, that means your critical signs to look out for is feeling faint, not passing adequate amount of urine, acute thirst, muscle cramps, abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting. These are the early signs. And then, of course, later on, you have a lot of metabolic disturbances.
Right. I think this is very, very useful information for viewers. We'll just come back to you. Let me get the introductory remarks from others as well. Anand Sharma, to you next. What does one make out of these extreme heat wave forecasts? April apparently saw the longest and the most severe heat wave alerts. It was roughly for 15 days at a stretch. Looks like May is no different. 2023 was the global warmest year that the world has seen. 2024 already seems to be breaking its record. Break it down for the ordinary people who are just caught up with daily life. Just how severe is what they are facing?
The first thing we need to remember is it's a hot weather season, and usually you have temperatures above 40s, crossing even 45 degrees, and heat waves are common in this season. First, we had heat wave conditions over southern peninsula and northeast region in the month of April, while March, April, until 15th of May, northwest India was very comfortable and there were no heat waves. In fact, there were some forest fires in Uttarakhand also, and people were blaming it on heat waves. But at that time, there were no heat waves in northwest India, right? But so now, earlier April, it was because heat starts from the southern end of the India. Now, southern peninsula is quite comfortable. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and even Karnataka are having rains, and the temperatures have come down, and there are no heat waves in those regions. But at the same time, now the focus is on northwest India, right from Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, and UP. All these regions are having heat wave to severe heat wave conditions. And it happens during this period of time. Only thing is, we have to be prepared for this. And Met Department is regularly giving you red alerts, yellow alerts regarding heat and severe heat wave conditions. So people have to be careful, and they should not, they should plan their activities according to the weather forecast. They should factor in the weather forecast into their day-to-day planning. Like from 11:30 to 3:30, people
Okay.
should avoid going out. But if in case they have to go, make it, very less exposure to the hot weather conditions.
Right. Mr. Anand Sharma, before I go to others, one quick question as well. Do you see what's happening right now as an exception to what otherwise would have been happening year on year in terms of the extreme pattern, in terms of the repetition of the heat wave, the extent of heat wave, the extent of temperatures? If you look at the past, is this an exception? Another question to this is this likely the pattern in future?
The first thing that it's not a severe kind of thing we have seen in the past. If you see the past 5 years over Northwest India, I'm not remembering the exact year when it was very severe. Delhi and the nearby region had about, I think, 13 to 14 days of heat wave. But right now, it is not that severe this year. Especially March, April, we had no heat wave. Till 15th of May, we had no heat wave in Northwest India. It's now only it has started. But yes, heat waves do happen. And this time, Rajasthan, we are getting severe heat wave. But it's a normal routine to be having heat waves. But at the same time, we also have global warming. As you said, 2023 was the warmest year. So naturally, that also adds to it. In addition to that, we have land use, land cover change, urban heat island impact. So all these are adding to it. And the kind of construction activities we are doing it, all that is adding. So naturally, in future, we expect its intensity and frequency to increase.
Right, thank you very much for adding perspective to this, Mr. Anand Sharma. If I can come to you, Mr. O.P. Rawat. You heard the panelists speak. We've been hearing discussions. Look at the visuals. Look at what we see every single day. There are rallies after rallies. There are leaders who seem to be fainting. There are people who are going and campaigning out. It's record temperatures. People are going and voting. Of course, you may say there is urban apathy and all of that, but there's a study which says possibly this may not be able to be a good time in future to be holding elections in India.
You may be right for that. But, the trade-off is between children's examinations, 10th board, 12th board, home examinations. And as Dr. Sanjeev Bagai told, that children may be worse affected. So all these examinations, Election Commission makes an arrangement that these could be held during February and March. And then the elections are held after March. But if this kind of pattern continues and heat wave goes on becoming severe by every year, I think all the political parties and Election Commission will have to put their heads together and ensure that this cycle is preponed by at least 4 to 5 months, so that before the children's exam, all these things are over. And for that, I think just one time consensus will be needed to prepone the parliament election by about a month. That's all. Because the law says that you can hold the election 6 months prior to the date of end of tenure. Now, this year, end of tenure of Lok Sabha was 16th June. So you could start proceedings for elections on 16th of December. Just 1 month prior means November, then you can hold. And elections to all the states, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, could also be clubbed together. And that way, in one go, you can complete Lok Sabha and all these state elections in the season when it is neither too cold nor too hot.
Right. Mr. O.P. Rawat, just one question. And I'm told we are also being joined by Vimlendu Jha as well. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Vimlendu Jha, to the discussion as well. But if I can have O.P. Rawat for one more question before he needs to leave for something, I'm told. Mr. O.P. Rawat, we heard what Anand Sharma was saying. He says this is the heat wave season. It is severe, but it's not like it's not happened before. How do you remember your elections that you have held, that you have conducted? How different is what you are seeing from what it was during your time?
Not much difference is there. In fact, Election Commission makes all the arrangements at the polling station for shade, for providing electoral powder, for providing cold water, and providing queue management systems so that nobody has to wait outside the polling station for more than 2-3 minutes. So all those arrangements are in place even now, and these were started in I think 14-15. So election commission is taking all steps, and I think if the pattern goes on, then this can continue to save the children because their examinations cannot be held in May or June.
Okay, all right. In fact, if I can just go across to Vimlendu Jha. So Vimlendu Jha, from what seems to be extreme heat wave-like conditions, deaths that are happening due to heat wave conditions, it's not just humans, it's the vegetation, it's the animals, everything that seem to be getting affected. Could you just tell our viewers the big concerns that emerge amid this serious scorching temperatures?
We need to understand that heat wave, we are all of us are looking at this as an event, as a one-off event. And we, last year as well, we had heat wave conditions in several parts of the country. We have to start looking at this as a phenomena, as a climate change phenomena, and something that's going to stay for long, for years to come. If you only look at heat wave as a temporary condition, and we only look for band-aid solutions for that, like creating the shade or electoral powder or so on and so forth, we'll never be able to find a solution to this. This is something where climate crisis has actually arrived, and it's actually manifesting in many different ways. When we look at heat wave, you understand that most of our reservoirs in our country are actually running dry. As in there are reservoirs in eastern part of India and southern part of India that has less than 15% of water. Right now, I'm in Mukteshwar in Uttarakhand, and there's no water. There's almost like a water war going on in several parts. I'm actually visiting Uttarakhand, and of course, this is the area around Nainital, which actually had forest fire. So rather than looking at a heat wave as an isolated event, we need to understand heat wave as a phenomena and also connect various other events that happen together. So be it the cloudburst that actually happened today in Pauri Garhwal, or for that matter, the way we every year, last couple of years that we've been reporting water scarcity in parts of Himachal, as in, imagine Shimla running out of water or Uttarakhand running out of water. And we've heard of Vidarbha running out of water in that sense, in terms of drought-prone areas. So we need to understand that rather than looking at a band-aid solution or a band-aid analysis of a problem, we'll have to look at a systemic, a very academic, a very scientific, and a very methodical, comprehensive, long-term solution and understanding of the problem and a solution as well. And that's where I think it's very important for our governance systems to come in, because we can't really look at this as something done by the weather gods or a weather phenomena. This has direct linkage with governance systems. And that's why we have to look at why should schools be operating, what happens to our labor laws, who are the people who actually get affected the most. So when a doctor or someone else would recommend people should stay home from 11 to 3, how many people, what percent of our country can actually stay put and not get exposed? So in a country like India, or for that matter, in any country,
absolutely,
people don't have a choice but to expose themselves to bad air or bad heat or bad water, and then that's the moral of your story, or that's the moral story of your climate crisis. Then you will have to look at a long-term solution and a more systemic solution, and that's where we'll have to look at tweaking our policies, our systems. An election is the tiniest thing that could have perhaps been shifted. Imagine our political parties and their manifestos don't even talk about heat waves, when and they don't even hardly talk about climate.
That's so
they
true.
hardly talk about farmers and agriculture and the crisis that climate brings to them: loss of life and loss of livelihood, mortality and morbidity, migration. So many issues that the country is facing because of climate crisis, and wish our prominent political parties talked about these issues.
Right. In fact, Mr. Bagai, if I can come to you just in a bit, let me just quickly ask one question to Anand Sharma as well. Mr. Anand Sharma, you're talking about how heat waves this season is expected. But there's also a report that suggests, and I think this is an IMD report itself, that says India is on an alert, is in the high-risk zone, where heat waves are likely to see a 6-fold increase in years to come. This is a report, I think it's a combined report by IMD as well as a US-based study. How critical is the situation?
See, actually, what models are predicting that under the business as usual scenario, that means if we keep on producing the greenhouse gases at the present rate, then in future, by say 2050 or 2100, the temperature of the globe is going to increase by 4.5 degrees. Right now, it's just above 1 degree. But by 2050 or 2100, the temperatures of the globe will go up by 4.5 degrees. If that happens, then definitely the intensity and frequency of heat wave will increase. But then question comes, naturally, we have so many measures being taken. If we take renewable energy, we plan things, we change the building design, we also provide better governance and better management. Like earlier speaker was saying about water problem. Water problem is because of poor governance and management. And it's this December, the reservoirs, or May, June is a time when the reservoir at the lowest level because they get rain from the monsoon season. And throughout the year, the water is being used from the reservoirs. So now they're at the lowest level. And especially on those years when the temperatures are much or appreciably above normal, naturally evaporation rates are more and the levels come down. So it's a natural process. Only thing is we need to do better management, water resources or whatever resources we have to do better management and we have to provide better governance.
Right. Right. Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, very quickly, when we look at what's unfolding right now, could you give us a sense of what's happening in hospitals? When you have these scorching temperatures, when you have these heat waves, is the situation changing for the outpatients? Is the situation changing in the hospitals largely? Do you have an influx of patients? Do you have calls of concerns?
Even the timing of the hospitals as far as or the clinics, OPD clinics, patients and children are coming a lot earlier rather than coming after 11 or 11:30. So the OPDs get a little bit lesser during the peak hour, the earlier peak hours of winter between 12 and 1 and 2. Second is a lot of the patients are who are otherwise reasonably stable ask for an online consultation. So it's consultation from their home into our clinics. And the third is we are seeing a lot of patients basically with gastroenteritis, dehydration, vomiting, muscle cramps and things. So I think, of course, the disease trend is on the upstroke. We need to be careful. There needs to be a acute public awareness with regards heat exposure. I think the way we conducted these kind of campaigns during the pollution episodes in the winter months, I think we need to learn with the climate change which is happening, and we need to factor in the heat part to our daily routine. So I think we need more hybrid models, more flexi timing, especially for the children. The exam timings should change. The IPL happening at this hour, at this time of the year, is complete foolishness because some cricketer is going to have very severe and grave injury because of muscle cramps. You can tear a ligament, you can tear a muscle in these kind of in these times of the year.
That's a warning I hope even officials and the cricketing board is also listening to. But Mr. O.P. Rawat, politicians don't see eye to eye when it comes to elections or issues. But do you think this may just be the last elections being held amid the peak of heat waves? Or do you see this as a very far-fetched thought at this point? All right, I believe Mr. O.P. Rawat is not with us. Mr. Vimlendu, you were talking about how politicians have not really made any of these things an issue. And I want to spend a little time on it, maybe a minute or two if you could. It's the mother of all elections underway right now. But you do not hear this even in states where there is a crisis. When the crisis peaks, you have politics over it. Like you have right now water politics playing out between Delhi and Punjab, Haryana. Like you have what's unfolding in Bangalore. But beyond that, there seems to be no poll campaigns, no citizen movements that really can demand from the politicians what citizens deserve.
Absolutely, Sneha. So, when you look at all the manifestos to begin with, let's forget the result and everything else. All the manifestos, none of the manifestos actually talk about the causes that actually cause these extreme weather events. Because, scientifically speaking, weather events are not just happening on its own. The weather events have a cause, and there are a lot of local causes as well, because we can't just hide behind the global causes of the polluting countries and the carbon footprint of the rich nations. We have our own carbon footprint. But our political class, our politicians, and our political parties haven't really talked about the causes and the measures perhaps that they need to take if they actually come to power. That's point number one. Point number two is that we need to understand that who gets affected the most by these weather events, or these phenomena like heat wave or a drought or a flood-like situation that we're talking about. And in the last couple of years, we've actually seen many of them. So, there's sometimes we actually discuss this in TV studios. People are actually facing it more often than we discuss this in television studios, because it's actually become a reality. So what I was telling you, that when I'm in Mukteshwar, there's almost a drought. Can you imagine Himalayas where there's a drought situation or water crisis? Similarly, in many other parts of the country. I think it's very important that there needs to be a better tweaking of understanding of what do people want and what affects the people the most. If the poor and the poorest of the poor actually are the people who vote the most, and they are the ones who are getting most affected, they are the ones who actually are losing their livelihood, their crops, their agricultural produce, their industrial, or their personal production versus everything else. I think the government should be able to really think about it, and that should be number one agenda on the manifesto of our political parties. So going forward, when we know that this has already arrived,
Vimlendhu,
when
we're
we
totally
already
out
have
of
that
time.
crisis. Yes.
We're totally out of time.
Our
You're
political
making a
parties need
point.
to step
And
up
I
and
think
look at
amid the
air
elections...
crisis, water crisis, climate crisis, heat crisis as not tomorrow's agenda, but today's
we're
agenda.
totally out of time. I'm being told to wrap up this point. We're totally out of time. O.P. Rawat, who joined us a while ago, Anand Sharma, as well as Vimlendhu Jha and Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. I cannot thank you all three enough for staying on with us, for giving us important perspective. You must go out and vote if you are going to be voting in the 6th phase. There are efforts which are made to ensure that you can be safe. But learn from Shah Rukh Khan's episode, because not everybody can win against a heat stroke unless you take the precautions that are required. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Good night.